Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Trudge Report. This is a recovery-based podcast, but don't worry, if you're not sober or not ready to be sober, we talk about plenty of other things, including sports, trending topics, Corey's receding hairline, and a good bit of nonsense. My name is Sean and I am your host. I am joined by my good friends and fellow Trudgers. Please remember to listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our videos will be posted each week on YouTube and Facebook. But as always, please be sure to download on your listening platforms. Remember to like and subscribe on all social media outlets with the handle @TrudgeReportPod. We are brought to you by the magnificent and the wonderful Stella Mix Podcast Management and our producer, Miss Janine Stella. Gentlemen, good evening. Want to wish Bill an early happy birthday. As a matter of fact, when this comes out, it will be his birthday because I believe it's May 1st. Correct me if I'm wrong. So he's out of town celebrating his birthday early. Happy birthday to Bill. Corey, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I have a pet peeve against people who do special things for their birthdays, like take off from the podcast or take off work or anything of the sort.
I know, and I'm kind of with
Bill.
I'm kind of with you. Yeah.
One time I almost took off work at the bowling alley when I was working at the bowling alley. I almost took off for like my sobriety date, like my anniversary. Mm-hmm. And thank God I got well enough before that to know that that was completely ridiculous.
It's kind of like throwing yourself your own anniversary dinner and not allowing others to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yes. I've seen that happen. But anyway, I'm good.
Or bringing your own cake to your own anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly,
yes.
Even bringing somebody else, like, it's popular amongst the women in recovery. Nothing against them. But,
we love the women. We love the women.
We love the women. But the balloons and flowers and stuff for the anniversaries, and just let the group buy a cake or something and just get over it. It's fine.
Or better yet,
happy anniversary.
Don't have a cake.
I mean, you can.
What do you need a cake for? For doing the right thing?
Yeah, I agree.
My wife has the tendency, she likes to get the very fancy $25 medallions off Amazon for all her girls. And I'm like, just go support your local intergroup and pay $2 and get a regular medallion. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's a girl thing, I guess.
Anyway, I'm good. I went to Disney last week. I listened to the pod. Well done.
Thank you.
Guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
I forget there was something you guys said that pissed me off, but I don't remember now, so it doesn't matter.
That was the intent.
Yeah. But Disney was good. Thanks for asking, dickheads. And that's it. That's it, man. I've been like thinking about like quitting my job and going to work at Disney for the past week. Just moving to Orlando.
What would you do at Disney, Corey? That's the real question.
You
what would you do?
Would make an excellent Yoda.
Yoda?
Ooh.
Okay.
Like a Yoda portrayer.
I was going in a different direction. What do you think I would do, Sean? What do you think I'd be good at Disney?
I feel like you'd be the guy in like Oktoberfest, like one of those guys, one of the performers.
All right. Here's the deal. I've loved Tarzan since I was a kid. I want to be Tarzan. I want to run around Disney in a loincloth.
That's called obscenity, my friend.
I was just going to say, I think there's a law against that.
They don't have a Tarzan, so I feel like I could do it.
Oh, geez.
Oh, dude. I'd follow you around blasting that Phil Collins soundtrack because that was a banger, dude.
Dude, listen.
Probably the best Disney soundtrack of all time.
I'm not even lying. That's in my gym playlist these days. I'll listen to You'll Be in My Heart on the damn Stairmaster. Dude, it's great. It's great. Yeah, so.
Good stuff. Greg, how you doing?
Very well. All things considered. I broke my toe over the weekend. Just doing a really boneheaded move. I was at the gym and grabbing a plate to put on a bar, and it was like waist high, and it just slipped right out of my hand, man, and dropped directly.
Right on your toe, huh?
Oh. Yeah, dude. It's I would send pictures to post with this, but it's not a pretty sight, man. It's purple and gross, and it's under wrap and ice at the moment. So there's nothing they can do for a toe. So apparently, so you just gotta, let it do its thing. So, but it was my girlfriend's birthday over the weekend. We had an awesome birthday weekend celebration, had a phenomenal dinner, and a nice kind of chill weekend to ourselves. So that was cool. And yeah, man, just enjoying life. And Cavs are up by 45 points as we speak, going into the middle of the third quarter. So we're
Okay.
going to perform a sweep in style on the Miami Heat. See you later, Heat.
How many
Corey,
touchdowns does that
Do you
equal?
know what that means, Corey?
No, I was wondering how many touchdowns that equals.
It's like 5
45
touchdowns, right?
Yeah, about 5.
All right.
It's a lot.
It's called
Kind of
quick
how
math.
bad the Eagles beat the Commanders in the NFC Championship.
Mhm.
Or the
I'll give
Chiefs
you
in the
that one.
Super Bowl.
I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
Or the
Yep.
Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'll give you that one too. So, all right, guys, I got really nothing on my end. Baby Watch is doing good. We had an ultrasound today. The technician was really cool. She literally snapped a bunch of pictures and labeled them like left foot, eyes, and nose. And the last picture is it's his penis.
The
which is pretty
Wang,
solid.
dude.
that
Let's
thing's-
go.
That thing's fucking hung. Listen, we're about to bring in our guest in a minute, and he knows. He might not know personally, but he knows that
Don't say it.
the McDonald men, nobody has
man.
ever complained about the McDonald men in that regard. Many other regards, many other complaints, but never in that regard. So we're keeping the trend going. But yeah, it's the last, there's like 20 pictures, and the last one, it's just like superimposed, and it's just like boing,
Well-
right there. And it says, "It's a boy" right above it, which I thought was pretty funny. I think ultrasound tech should have a sense of humor, you know?
Just want to thank you, Sean, for our spike in female viewership this week.
Yeah. That's
Good.
See, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. But no, everything's good. Busy, but all good. I'm trying to think if there was. Oh, guys, I found. I might be able to try to post one during this timestamp. If anybody can timestamp right around now, I guess we can also listen back. I found pictures. I was cleaning out my garage today, like just honestly going through baby stuff. Our guest is he's learned how to use the chat button. I found pictures of my first ever mountain retreat in like 2012 with me and Christian Rose and Trey. I don't know if you guys remember Trey, not Trey that hung out with Derek and them, but my buddy Trey, right? Tiffany, was her name Tiffany? His mom?
Yeah. Mike and Tiffany.
Mike and Tiffany's kid,
Yeah.
Trey. And then this kid, Pete, who was at that point Johnny C's son-in-law, or not son-in-law, but it was what's her name's daughter and stuff, and he was trying to get sober. Guys, we look like children. Like I look like a little child compared to. It just was brought back a bunch of memories. I found a whole bunch of those pictures.
13 years ago, I would imagine.
Dude,
No beard, Sean
yeah.
McDonald looks like a child.
no
I don't
beard,
trust that guy.
complete baby face.
Yeah.
Complete baby face. I will say that I still have the sweatpants that I was wearing, and I still fit into them, which is kind of cool. But
Checks out.
just a while. I had a bit of nostalgia this morning. I also realized that I have so much recovery paraphernalia, like so much, an obscene amount that's just been stuffed in boxes for years and years and years. And I went through all of it today, and I might have thrown like 1.5% of it out, and the rest of it I just kept. I have a bunch of stuff from like March through July of 2020 when COVID hit. I think it's going to be worth something one day. I have a whole bunch of just recovery stuff, so I kept it all, and we'll see. It might be worth something one day. So it was a good day. I don't know, nostalgia.
Nice.
So, you guys got anything else real quick before we?
I'm anxious to meet our guest.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do it. Let's bring in our guest, Mr. Tyler. I don't know if he wants us to use his last name yet. Mr. Tyler F. From an undisclosed South Florida location. Good friends of me and Corey. Greg has just gotten to know him kind of through fantasy football. But let's bring in Tyler. Tyler, you there, bud?
Yo,
That's
There
not
he is.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Is this the guy?
There he is. Gotta just remember, a lot of people just listen to this podcast, so they won't be able to see your beautiful face.
straight from South Florida witness protection, apparently.
Witness protection.
You're in a dark
up,
room.
Tyler?
Yeah,
How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Good, man. Glad. Thanks for being a guest on our program here. Just happy to have you here. We've prepped for this, and like Greg just said, is excited. I'm excited. Corey is excited. He'll never admit it or show it, but he is excited. So
You know how it is.
I know how it is. We know how it is by now. Tyler knows how it is.
I've been to
well,
Flanagan's plenty of times to
There
know
you
how
go.
it is.
So we'll kind of ease right into it. Tyler, you can disclose as much as you want or as little as you want. Where are you coming to us from? How are you doing today? What's kind of just a quick hello, quick introduction. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. Just got back from a work trip to Tampa and Orlando over the weekend. I'm in beautiful Hope Sound, Florida, where I reside, and life is good.
Where's Dexter? Where's the dog at?
He's in lock and key to behave.
So he can't get in and interrupt things.
Yeah, he likes to bark out the front window when he sees any action at all, and this is the hour for that. So,
Tyler, I already have a question, dude. Are you one of the very few that are actually from Florida originally?
No,
You're not.
I'm from New York. I'm not a native.
Oh yeah. That's right. You're.
No, I'm from the Catskills. My family moved down here in the late '80s.
Well, that's actually perfect, because that was going to kind of be my first question. Give us a kind of a quick introduction on who Tyler is, where you're from, family structure, where have you lived, what have you kind of done through the years. You don't have to go into great detail, but just kind of give us a little glimpse into the life of Tyler.
So as I mentioned, I was born in Catskills, upstate New York. I went to kindergarten, preschool there, and then my family moved down here in 1988, I believe. My father built a house down here, so we lived on the west coast of Florida while the house was being built. I went to I think second grade over there. So I went to first grade in New York, and then third grade all through high school I was in Martin County.
So you've pretty much been here.
I will never call myself a Florida native or a Florida boy. But I've been here the majority of my life. I went to college at Stetson University. I got my master's degree from there. And then
where'd you get your master's in?
Business administration.
Nice.
And then all the real consequences and true affliction things started transpiring in my life, and it's been ups and downs, and I'm on the upswing now. So
very cool.
Yeah.
What I know you have two other brothers, a younger brother who we know.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my parents are still together. They're still married. I am the middle of
lovely parents, by the way. His mother is a wonderful cook.
Yes, the cleavers when we have guests, for sure. But yeah, I'm the middle of three brothers. My older brother is a fireman, EMT. Been in Martin County since after high school for him, and my younger brother is one of us and has played music with me most of his adult life and his 20s, since his 20s on. Played music together. So
nice. And yeah, I know Casey pretty well. So does Corey. So that's pretty cool. And how long have you been sober?
I celebrated 3 years of sobriety on the 22nd of February this year.
Nice. Good stuff, man. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of that entire 3 years and the year, around a year plus prior to that.
18 months.
That led up to those 3 years. That was also very fun. For the listeners, I know you were also sober prior to that years ago for a stint of time. Get into that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the first time I got into recovery was in 2009. September 13th of 2009 was actually my first ever sobriety date. Mm-hmm. And then 6 years later to the day was when I relapsed, and things got pretty dark and pretty interesting, to say the least, for the next, I think it was 6 years. I basically, I got out of college, and it was the first time in life where the next phase of life wasn't planned for me. When you're done with elementary school, you go to middle school. When you're done with middle school, you go to high school. For all 4 years I was in high school, I had a guidance counselor who was preparing me for college. We were literally sophomore year, had a list of schools that my aptitude and my SAT scores and everything and my sports interests coincided with. And the list got, we honed the list in more and more. By my senior year, I already knew where I was going. With sports, I was always into sports. So it's you have a game at this time on Saturday, you have practice here. Everything was very structured. And I was just under some really weird delusion that when I got out of college with 2 degrees, that people would be knocking on my door and like, okay, you're going to come work for us now. You know?
Mhm.
And that wasn't the case. And I was lost, completely lost and confused. And I had I have arrived moment where I got a job working at a restaurant. And ultimately I ended up running the entire bar and the entire restaurant, which was just a free for all of delusional, what I thought was responsibility, because I showed up to work and was making good money. And it didn't matter that we were doing shots the whole time, or that I had particular things being delivered on my shift so I could function. And it got really bad really quick through that process. And I went to rehab for the first time in 2009. The only time, actually, excuse me.
Nice.
After that, as I mentioned, I was sober for 6 years. I did the recovery thing just like everyone around me. I got to a point where I was pursuing my music dreams again. I was touring the country with 2 different bands 9 months out of the year. I started a business at one point towards the tail end with 2 of my friends. And it got to the point where we went from the 3 of us trying to make this online business work in my condo to having an office, 20,000 square foot office with 350 employees. But just as quickly as it blew up, we dealt with a lot of like crazy stuff with merchant accounts and red tape, and the industry we're in got very tainted because a lot of people were doing really shady things, and the business just ended like snap of a finger. I can remember where I was when I watched the dashboard, just all the Visa transactions getting refunded by the merchant. And unfortunately, at that point in my journey, I no longer had the tools at my disposal to deal with that, and I copped the ultimate of resentment. So,
what kind of business was it?
We were doing remote tech support, which is a very shady industry. Turned out to be way shadier after we were involved. It started because the 3 of us, my 2 friends and I, were working as sales reps for a company, and we had no idea whether like we were just naive. We thought like, well, this is a legitimate company because they had an interview process and they hired us and they give us a paycheck, and they're doing what we're watching them fix the computers behind us at the other station. So, but one of my friends was very tech savvy, and he was like, they're charging an arm and a leg for stuff that you could click 2 buttons to fix. So we kind of created a model that was based around doing the right thing and trying to find out the real problems people were having that were worth charging people money for. And we kind of built it off of that. But unfortunately, with the gray area that is involved with the online world, there were 2 huge companies in Palm Beach County that got raided by the feds that we knew the owners of those companies because they went to Las Vegas, big forums and stuff that we were at. Like, we knew who they were. And we're like, are they coming for us next? And they never did, because we weren't like doing the slimy stuff. But the way it works in that world is you have to have a merchant to conduct business with credit cards. And the merchant was just like, we don't want to be involved in this business anymore. And they refunded $250,000 of my Visa transactions that,
wow.
Right. Like, I watched them I just sat there and stared at the computer while they all just got refunded remotely by them. And it you take $250,000 of cash equity from any business in a 5-second period, it's going to flip most of them upside down. And that's what happened.
Yeah. So then you were sober during that time, or you weren't?
I was absolutely sober during that time.
And then shortly after that is when you relapsed?
Yeah, I stayed sober for another 6 months after that. But I was like, my identity was, I'm a business owner, and now I'm not. There was a lot of backlash from the employees, like social media and stuff, talking smack. And, I went months at a time without taking a paycheck to make sure my employees had paychecks. So it was a lot of things. Right. And the real truth of the matter is like, in hindsight, this many years later, that industry was not was shady. It was a shady industry, and as someone living spiritually had no business to be in it to begin with.
Right. So then you leave that, and then I meet you in July of 2020, or right around like August 2020. That was that summer. I can remember the day that I met you and your brother, actually. Justin, our good friend Justin.
Yeah,
brought you in.
My Evie Thatcher.
Yeah, you're. So I met you in July of that kind of summer of 2020, and you and I have been super close ever since, and even more, especially these last 3+ years that you've been sober. I have a couple questions that I want to ask, and one thing in particular, because I think it'll help our listeners. But before I kind of get into that, like one of the main questions is, in a few words or just in a quick thought, when did you know you hit your lowest point? Like, and that can be in your previous sobriety and this sobriety, like that moment that kind of the opposite of the I had arrived moment, right? The moment where like you knew.
So that was definitely maybe a week before I got sober this time.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming home from a completely meaningless, horrible job. There was an old bartender friend that I randomly ran into, and he was doing COVID testing sites during COVID. And he had me like helping him run his sites, and I was still partaking in dry goods.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, and I was doing that. I was doing the kratom stuff, and then this other absolutely absurd stuff called Zaza.
The Zaza.
Zaza.
You guys ever heard of Zaza?
What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's banned everywhere.
Corey, that's one of your yets, my friend. Zaza.
Yeah. I mean, I did research after taking it, not before, because that's kind of how we roll, you know? And it was like, this stuff will instantly give you serotonin syndrome, and you will have to continue taking it not to feel that. And that's exactly what happened to me. But I was in the shower after work, like every day for a week straight, just crying. I was playing this song that I had listened to it a million times, but the lyrics just transformed into like God talking to me through the song. And it broke me down into an absolute mess, just completely broken, completely humbled. And I kind of understood what submitting was finally, and letting go. And the rest has been, I'm not going to say smooth, but like the obsession has been gone since that last cry, you know?
And and then you and I had that talk after golf that one day. That was shortly after you got sober, right?
That was the same week. No, I wasn't sober yet when that conversation happened.
And then on the golf course, another time with our good friends, Wade and Tommy.
Yeah.
It's kind of when it all came out.
Yeah. That was all in a tight time frame, but when we were playing golf at Summerfield, no affiliation, and on the 13th hole, you were just like, how you been? Because sometimes we don't even have conversations about each other on the golf course. And it was like, I just said, not good. And it was one of those things where it was like, I didn't mean to say that. The cat's out of the bag. But it was really freeing to tell all my people stuff's not good. I'd love to say that that was it. That was the moment, but it took 2 more days because I still had stuff in my possession and I was scared to go through the detox, you know?
Yeah. Well, I can say that, I mean, you and I have become extremely close over the last few years, and just what a journey it's been, what a ride it's been. We've had a lot of laughs and played a lot of golf together and just done a lot of cool stuff together. And there is another question that I have, and I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, a little bit about the medications you were on over the years. And then specifically, I know you had knee surgery last year, and you and I talked a lot leading up to that process, during that process, and after that process about pain medication and the choice to either take them or not take them. And how would you go about that? I want you to go into kind of that whole thing, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, prior to the knee surgery, the first year that I was sober this time, I was on Zoloft, antidepressants. And even when the only time I went to rehab back in 2009, like they had me on Prozac and this and that and the other. And like, they do this thing where they like send the family to go do an inspection of your apartment while you're in rehab. And like, I had a full bottle of Suboxone, a full bottle of Zoloft, or a full bottle of Prozac, and some other kind of mood balancer. Like, I wasn't even taking it because. So, and the only reason I bring that up is because like that kind of planted the seed for is like that stuff. The drugs were my medication. That stuff didn't help, and I always went back to the drugs. So then when I was taking Zoloft this time, and I talked to you about this in length as well, it's like, I really don't think I need this stuff, but I'm scared of the chemical imbalance that might happen just to stop taking it. And it was actually you, Sean, that was like, I believe, I'm not a doctor, but I believe God provides everything we need. And, you know, through the work we do in recovery, that hearing that from you was the affirmation I needed to be like, okay, I'm just going to stop taking this stuff. So going into knee surgery in August of 2024, I had already not been taking antidepressants and feeling absolutely great just through prayer and meditation and doing recovery. So it was very important to me that I didn't get anything stronger in my system. And I just did what you're supposed to do. I talked to my surgeon. I talked to my primary care physician. And they said, it's really up to you how you're going to deal with the discomfort. You're going to be a little more uncomfortable than most people, but it's not going to kill you or anything. And I just kind of leaned on that antidepressant conversation, like God is enough. And I'm not going to play with that raging beast that I know is inside me if I uncork it with something. So, and that was it. I took ibuprofens. That was it.
Nice.
And that's awesome, man. Good stuff.
Also for your knee surgery as well.
Yeah, for the knee surgery, like they gave me ibuprofens. He gave me muscle relaxers, which I gave to my mother. And I told Sean and my supports about as well. And I think I took them the first 2 days, and I didn't like how groggy I felt, so I never took them again after that.
Nice.
That was just to help the pain subside a little bit right out of the gate, and to be able to sleep, because you got to sleep to heal. But yeah, it really wasn't really a big deal at all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good stuff.
And, I mean, I guess by no means are we out here like shitting on modern medicine. You know, some people do really need that, but I like what you're saying, and certainly like what Sean told you, because I'm pretty sure him and I have had some of those kind of same exact conversations along the line as well. But you know, if you really think about it, it's kind of a it just goes to show how little either we know or the medical profession chooses to not acknowledge about drug addicts and alcoholics, because you know, the last thing I need is to be prescribed a laundry list of different stuff to make me feel or not feel certain things, you know.
Well, and even if you take like for me, Greg, taking the spiritual side out of it, just applying logic to the situation. It's like, I like to think I'm a pretty tough dude. You know what I mean? Mm. But I also know that like I have a history with opiates, and I like them a lot, and my body craves them once I take them. And Absolutely. It's like, so you could do this as medically prescribed, and it's not necessarily a relapse, and it'll make you a little more comfortable. But what could possibly happen? And I wasn't willing to roll any dice on what could possibly happen, because I know I abuse stuff. That's what I do. So,
right,
like, deal with a little discomfort. Don't ruin your sobriety date. That sounds like a good solution to me. And then when you add praying about it and bringing God into it, then it just gets even easier. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, switching gears slightly, you briefly talked about being in a band and playing with your brother and all that. I want to know a little bit more about your experience in the music scene and what kind of touring you did and stuff like that. And B, I also want to know, I feel like or at least I thought, I had this like idea back in the day before I like learned what real sobriety was, that you know, if one was to get sober, maybe they wouldn't be able to be active in the music scene and stuff like that, because there does tend to be a lot of partying going on and stuff like that. So like, I want to know about your experience in the music scene in general, but I also want to know, like, did you have a lot of experience partying and stuff because you were in bands and stuff, and not only that, but like on the other side of it in recovery, like, talk about the freedom of being able to do that sober.
Yeah. So, before I went to rehab in 2009, I was actually in a pretty big band up until 2006. Like at one point we opened for Godsmack. I think I told you about that. It was a sold out show at an amphitheater show. Definitely was partying as much as I partied at any point in my life in that band. And the band was pretty much a around the clock shit show because everyone in the band was a drug addict and an alcoholic. So when I fast forwarded to 2009, I think it was I maybe had 18 months sober before I decided, like, hey, I really want to get back into music. Like, I'm a sober person now. I could probably accomplish a lot more than I did in the past, and I did quite a bit in the past. I just assembled the band with all sober people. And it wasn't like our plan was to be touring 9 months out of the year at any point. It just kind of happened because we all had really good communication skills and we all supported each other and we all had a program. So things just took off. And from there spawned a second band that actually became even more popular. And it was all with sober guys. And we went to Puerto Rico. We toured Canada. I was from the East Coast to the West Coast and back multiple times throughout the year for like 3 years straight. And yes, we toured with other bands who were party animals. But it was no different than how I approach meeting someone. If say I got a new job tomorrow, it's not going to take long before I make it very clear that I'm in sobriety because I'm not ashamed of it. And typically when you own it and then it's not like somebody's pushing stuff in your face. And I don't really believe in temptation anymore. It's like a choice anyway. But yeah, you deal with a lot of drunken nonsense at bars and stuff, but like, it's okay. I'm going to play my set for 30 minutes and then I'm going to sell a drunk guy one of my shirts for $20 and just steer clear of all this. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
The only thing that was annoying about it, which is just like if I go to a show and there's a bunch of drunk people now, is some of the conversations you get sucked into.
Oh, it's terrible.
You just try to be nice. And sometimes we have a phrase, like a lot of the touring band, we call them punishers. It's like people that you get stuck talking to and you don't want to like misrepresent your band by being an asshole. So you just kind of nod your head and try to stay engaged. But it's like, will this person ever stop talking? They're punishing me.
Well, when people are drunk, their like depth perception tends to be off, it seems like, and they talk this close to your face.
Real close talkers.
Go, bro, you're fucking awesome on that guitar. It's like, I'm getting drunk off your breath, bro.
Yeah. Well, there's a part at the end with one of the bands where two of the members, because Corey, I'm sure you know, keeping the original lineup is almost impossible. People get married, people have kids, people just decide they don't want to go on the road because it's too big of a sacrifice. And I had a couple kids that were younger and they partied, but it was never an issue. Like a couple times is like, okay, dude, if you're going to that house party, whatever, like I will be in this parking lot at 9 o'clock tomorrow with the van because we're leaving to go to the next city. Be here or see you later. And they'd be there hungover and get in the van, tell their war story of how much fun they had. And I would just cringe on the inside and keep it moving. So,
yeah, I used to, when I was in high school and playing a lot, like I idolized like all the like 80s rock stars like Nikki Sixx and Eddie Van Halen and all those guys that like were known like drug users, and I glamorized it and stuff and thought it was awesome. And like I was going to be just like them. Except the problem was, one, they were way better than me. But as Sean will tell anybody in the world that I suck. I'm just kidding, Sean. And two, they reached like fame and glory, and I was in a cover band that was not getting to those heights. But the drug addiction was happening much faster. and yes.
Much faster than you came up behind Walter Hagen, huh, Corey?
Yeah. And then number three, I learned later on that they were all getting sober. You know, they not all, many didn't, but
Some
like
of them
a
didn't
lot of
make
them
it,
got sober, right? So it apparently was not as cool as I thought it was.
Well, I think so. I've had a conversation with a lot of people, like when you're booking your own tours, because I was basically my own booking agent. I actually ended up booking a lot of other bands just independently because they trusted me. And when you're booking your own tour and you're responsible for the merch and you own the van and you own the trailer and most of the musical equipment is yours, like it is not, even if I wasn't who I am, it is not, you don't have time for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we have to be loaded up after the show is done and be on the road by 11 p.m. Going to eat some really shitty fast food because we have an 8-hour drive to get to the next city, to get 5 hours of sleep and be up and do it all over again. So like, there's not a lot of time to have a girlfriend in every city. And,
you
know what I mean?
We could have a whole podcast episode on just like the actual truth of a touring musician because like you just said,
I think in the 70s and 80s, it was like roll out the red carpet for whoever and give them 16 cases of beer and thousands of dollars. But that's not, I think it's become uber competitive. At least it was when I was doing a lot in the, I don't know how to ever articulate the 2010s, I guess. But you're hoping that you could get a $300 guarantee and you're really trying to make most of your money on merch. And it took me 2 years to get to a point where we were actually making money on the road and not breaking even. Mm-hmm. It's a grind. It is a grind. So when you insert sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or sex and drugs into the rock and roll, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
To cap off that music discussion that I wanted to bring up, what are you doing these days?
So I started a band. I don't know, maybe I had like a year sober. My Ebby Thatcher, Justin, who brought me to meet you guys the first time ever, like 5 years ago. We went and played golf down south, and the plan the whole time was to just find a random meeting down there after we played golf. And we walked into a meeting, and I was getting a little uncomfortable because it was down south where I did most of my relapse time when I relapsed. And I was just worried about who I was going to run into. I didn't want to get into that, this is what I've been doing, which now I embrace that stuff because I've been sober a little bit longer. But at the time, I still was a little frail about my past. And the kid chairing the meeting was a kid from the music scene back in the day that used to sing all the words to all my band songs when we play locally. He had 12 years sober and he was chairing the meeting, and he was like, let's start a band. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Exchange numbers. And every time I talk to him, let's start a band. And then we finally did it. And it's just kind of how this stuff works for me. Within a year, we had an EP out, we recorded a demo, and we went on a tour of the Southeast last summer for 2 weeks. So I think we actually went all the way to St. Louis and back. So
nice.
But then you want to shout out the name of you shout out the name of the band if you want.
It's called Spit Truth. We actually took a hiatus shortly after that tour because the singer moved to Guam to do military therapy. Even though we all told him, and his mentor also told him that's a horrible idea. And it really kind of killed all the momentum that we had built up. But he came back within 2 months. It was supposed to be a 1-year commitment. And we have been rehearsing again, and I just wrote a new EP that we're going to put out in July.
Nice.
And what kind of music is it?
It's like punk and hardcore mixed.
Very good,
man. I've seen him in action, and I got to shout Casey out. I got to give a shout out to Casey. His brother Casey is an unbelievable drummer,
phenomenal drummer.
He's really. And if you know Casey, he's kind of a little weird, and he's a little socially awkward, and especially when he's first getting sober again. And when you watch videos of him drumming, dude, he's the most confident person in the world. It's unbelievable.
It's his happy
great.
Yeah.
It's really phenomenal. The first time I ever saw the juxtaposition of how he is awkward and weird and kind of unsure of himself, and then watching him do his thing with the drums, and it was an experience for me just watching it. And Tyler's the same way.
Funny thing, Sean, is he is so not awkward or uncomfortable, and he got 60 days sober on Friday, I think.
Yeah.
In the first 30 days, he was still similar, but the last month, it's like, oh man, I could tell he's comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
Like but isn't that the root of everything for all of us? Is like, I do not feel comfortable in my own skin. I need some type of lubricant,
Some.
Yeah.
Kind of going along with that, because what you said really struck me. I mean, I've been vocal about it on this podcast before. Like I feel God in music, right?
Yeah.
And I love going to shows. I love. I've recently become a bit of a, I don't know if you want to call it a vinyl snob, but I got a record player and I love listening to. I can't believe I waited this long to get one,
Right.
type deal. So but I feel God in music, and it speaks to me on a level. And I've been in that position where I've been just, bowled over in tears, because it makes you reflect on your own life and what's going on and stuff like that. And so I've had a couple musicians that I'm like, man, if I ever met Trent Reznor, I would, this is what I would say to him. If I ever met, Dave Matthews, or if I ever met Maynard from Tool, or who, like this is what I would say to that person, and how they affected me at this point in time in my life. Who's that for you?
Oh, wow. I didn't expect this one. I'm going to kind of answer this a little untraditionally. Have you guys heard of the band Rise Against?
Yeah.
All right. So before that band, the bass player of Rise Against, his name's Joe Principe. They're from Chicago. Before he played bass in Rise Against, he played bass in a band called 88 Fingers Louie, which is like a punk band.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard of that one. Definitely not.
He is the reason that I picked up a bass guitar in grad school that started this whole music thing for me. I mean, my brother being a drummer and my father being a drummer was obviously part of the influence. But like, when I heard that guy play bass, it made me realize, like, bass guitar isn't just this boring instrument that's playing along in the background.
It's everything.
He plays so much cool stuff, and the tone was awesome. So I actually met him at Warped Tour, and I was taking my little brother through the VIP line. You could get Rise Against autographs. I'm just bringing my brother because he's a teenager at the time. I'm in my early 20s. And I met Joe, and he's like, "You want an autograph?" I'm like, "No, I'd rather just shake your hand." He's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, and I just told him, I'm like, "I just want to let you know, like, you're the reason that I picked up a bass and the reason I play bass." And he like got, blushy in the face, and he's like, "That's so refreshing." Because, you don't want to, I've signed autographs. It's weird. You know what I mean? It's awkward. It's not an organic experience. So to have a conversation with a guy and just be like, "You've passed something along to me that I value. I appreciate you." That was my moment. You know what I mean? I've had it.
That's awesome.
And he was just like, "Dude, this is so refreshing. I can talk to you all day, but there's obviously a bunch of teen boppers who want my autograph in the line." But yeah, so
awesome.
Oh, very good. Go ahead, Greg. You froze up for just a moment there, Greg.
My bad. My internet. Yeah, I got
he lives in the middle of nowhere.
No, but what I was going to say is, from doing our prep stuff, and we know that you are part of a very important nonprofit organization. We definitely want to leave some time to really open up and talk about that, what it is that you help organize, what it's for, and what brought you into that.
Cool. So yeah, I have a very good friend. She stems back from the band that opened for Godsmack days, so like 20 years ago. She got in touch with me a couple years back and told me she got a 501(c)(3). She started a nonprofit. It's called Access Art, and its mission is to provide access to art and music to underprivileged youth of South Florida. And at the time, I was running a moving company. It was the first job I had sober this time. I was working god awful hours around the clock. Everything went through me, from the the hiring, the interviews, the logistics, the bookkeeping. Like I did everything for the business. Sean could attest to this. My phone would ring off the hook every Sunday on the golf course. Like there was no moment where I wasn't available to the business, and it was sucking the life out of me. And I think I mentioned this in our prep. Like I think I had 2 years sober at the time, and I was as miserable as a sober person could be. I was miserable waking up. I was unfulfilled going to bed. And it just so happened that my female friend, Ashley, reached out to me, and she's like, I really think that you could help me turn this into something. And she asked me to join the team. And I prayed and prayed and prayed because, you know, it was like, there's no guaranteed paycheck taking this path. But at the end of the day, what good is a 6-figure salary if it's depriving you of your soul? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I prayed about it, and I left that job amicably. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I jumped full bore into this thing. And we're still 2024 was our first full year, so we're still in the fundraising, initial fundraising stages of the endeavor. But what we do is we host. We're basically event promoters. We do oddities and art markets, and then we do a big tattoo expo at the Palm Beach Convention Center in June. So, for example, we just had a show in Tampa in February. We rent one of the exhibition halls at the South Florida Fairgrounds, and we had 150 vendors that come in and set up their own artisan art, whether it's paintings, taxidermy stuff, anything that somebody's crafting and making on their own, and they want to try to get their name out there as a small business, they'll rent the space from us, and then we put on the show and promote it. And we've had an average of about 3,000 people at every one of our shows.
And if I may, real quick, let me interrupt for just a second, because I went to the one in June last summer at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, and those who know me well, you guys know me well, a lot of our listeners by now. I'm not a tattoo guy. I never have been. I love them on other people. My wife has a bunch, and I think they're very sexy. I really do. Corey's got some very sexy tattoos as well. But I've never been a tattoo guy, and I went, and it was awesome. Like, it was, the first thing that caught me was the scale of it. Like, just how many vendors, what were there, like over 300 vendors or something like that, or more?
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. And we saw a bunch of I saw a bunch of people there I knew from recovery, and some of them were just there to visit and get tattoos themselves. Others were there because they had a booth and they were selling stuff and they had a service, and it was just it was a world that I knew nothing about and never really ventured much into. A little bit obviously in the height of my addiction, but not me personally. And it was phenomenal. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, the expos are sweet, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so it started off with that tattoo expo in June. That was actually the first event we did for Access Art, and it was a pretty big undertaking. You're dealing with health department and out of state and international licenses, and you know, it's not like there's a cliff notes on how to do that stuff. And I'm very grateful for my business partner, because she is one of those people who will just deal with paperwork, no matter what it is. If a local or state entity will say no, she will be like, but why? And then submit the paperwork and get it to work. But you know, I come in and I kind of she's the visionary, and I'm like the implementer. You know, I do all the floor plans on Excel. I make sure I know the numbers and how many booths we need to have, how many booths we could fit. And our personalities just kind of work well. They definitely cause problems sometimes, but that's life. But then we did our next oddities market, our first oddities market at the Martin County Fairgrounds in October of last year. And it was really scary because it was 2 days after all those tornadoes ripped through our area. And we were worried that no one was going to show up, but we had, I think, almost 3,000 people through the door there, which was cool. So we're just kind of building it out. We have 6 events this year. We've already had one. I have another one in Vero in May, the expo again in June. And then I have Fort Myers, Fort Pierce, and Orlando, respectively. But the whole purpose of all this is to raise money to serve the nonprofit, which is to get access to underprivileged kids, access to art and music. And, there's a common misconception with nonprofit work. Like my own mother asked me the other day, she's like, how much money did you give away last year? I'm like, that's not how this works. We're still trying to make money, but we're looking into creating programs where we will host free events in our area on a monthly basis, bring in art teachers, bring in music teachers, and allow anybody who wants to drop their kid off this time on a Saturday, the third Saturday of every month, come in and get some free art and music lessons. And we're trying to navigate that into less fortunate areas. We did a big toy drive at Elevate Hope in Port Salerno. I think we dropped off they have 6 rows of tables in there, and we filled 4 of them with toys during the holidays. And we're really looking into developing the programs. It's just trying to find the right fit and the right space. And, I don't want to do this on Hutchinson Island. I want to do it where kids need it, not for kids who already have access to everything. So, it's a work in progress, but it's just gratifying to know that the purpose is something I'm all about, but the vehicle to the purpose is tattoos, music, and art, which I'm all about as well. So it just kind of creates a synergy in my life, which is what I kind of want to do with my time,
Yeah.
I think that's really important too, because I do not have the art side of things or the tattoo expertise or even interest, but I changed career. I completely did a 180 on my career back in July of 2021, and I went from hospitality management and working every holiday and every evening till late at night and every weekend and all that stuff to I changed. I got a graduate degree, and now I work in, as most people listening to this know, child welfare. And to your point, it was like I took less money to start, now I'm a little bit ahead of where I was. It's all gravy, but I took less money to start and went out on a huge leap of faith because I was tired of the hospitality industry and I wasn't being fulfilled and I was dreading going to work and getting burnt out on all of it. And now I'm in an industry where I'm extremely passionate about what I do. And not only that, I'm good at what I do. Right. And I think that's a big thing too. I know you were good at the logistics of the moving company and all the other stuff, but I'm not just passionate about it, but I'm good at it. And I know that because of my passion and my kind of being good at it, that's really where the difference can be made. And I think, would you say that's kind of similar to what you're doing or why you're doing it?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that you hit on is taking, I'm not making as much money, but it's the freedom of time that I have being my own employer, on top of the freedom of mind, the freedom of thought, knowing that what I'm putting my energy into it's not only mine, but it's also serving a purpose that I care about. I wouldn't trade the freedom I have for more money in any situation.
Right. Same. Very good.
And one thing I will say too, because you said it in our little prep meeting, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks again. But certainly what you were just talking about with, because I even find myself getting caught up in it. Corey and I have had conversations about what he does for a living, but it's sometimes the humdrum and the daily grind of the P&L and the staffing and the I've got to figure out how to build my customer base here and acquire sales over here and stuff like that. That can be rewarding, but it's so easy to get lost in it sometimes. And what pieces of advice would you have? Because it sounds a lot like you've like you said, this is something that is a career for you, but also something that can, it's a passion and something that you can use a lot of those same things that we talk about daily in recovery in your professional life as well. Yeah. And so if you were talking to some people who were maybe feeling lost or they were just stuck in this shuffle of, I'm sober, I'm doing the right things in my life, but man, this whole area is just kind of turning into a hamster wheel.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that boat too, before I started my business the first time around, I was in the parking lot ready to go into another shift that I voluntarily worked 12 hours because the longer I work, the more sales I make and I could hit that bonus.
Yeah.
And I called who ended up being my two business partners. Like, I can't, I would rather drive my car off a freaking cliff than go into this office. And I can't even tell you why. It just all of a sudden, this is so drone and mundane. But the thing I learned from that experience, which gave me the faith to do this time, is like the difference between people who do things in an entrepreneurial manner or people who have business ideas that succeed or fail. But the biggest difference is, like, you have to do it. You cannot just sit there and think about it for the rest of your life, because the next thing you know, you'll be too close to retirement and too close to pension. Your chips are all on the table. You got to see this through. And it's like, I don't know, man. All I have in my life is my time, and I want to spend it enjoying it. And obviously we have to do things that pay the bills, but it doesn't mean we have to do things for other people to pay the bills too.
We don't have to chase the money.
No. Well, and I have a friend who makes more money than probably all of us combined. And he talks to me a lot of time as well. He's in recovery, and he's like, how does it feel to be retired, is what he said to me. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you can play golf whenever you want. How do you have all that time? I'm like, because I work for myself and I prioritize my recovery, and I'm in a situation that affords me to do all these things. So I'm going to honor it by doing them. And he's like, he was kind of expressing envy of it. But I said to him, like, could you walk outside without that Rolex on your wrist and feel comfortable in your own skin? And he said, no, I'm not there yet. So it's like, well, then you're not there yet. You know what I mean? It's just, I think the biggest thing is not worshiping worldly things, you know? Right. And there's a freedom in letting go of worshiping those things. The only thing I still worship is my sneakers. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
He does have an avid sneaker collection. I'll say that. That's a perfect kind of segue into closing this thing down, and the kind of to tie everything in together, right? And all of it is, if you were the newcomer, right? The new person, if you could say kind of one thing or describe to the newcomer one of the most important things or the key most important thing in your sobriety and your journey that maybe you didn't realize in your previous sobriety and you do now, or something that you thought was true for a long time, what would you tell the newcomer that you would deem the most important thing? And I know that's kind of a loaded question, but like, what would you distill that down into?
If I were, let's just say if I were talking to myself, right, on day one, I'd say, you know that God is real. You have sensed him your whole life, and you better start seeking him right now. And the rest of your life will be beyond your wildest dreams.
Not too bad. Not a bad hook right there at all. Corey or Greg, you guys have anything in closing? Any last questions or any comments on anything? I feel like I truly feel, I know we say this a lot, guys, but I feel like we totally just scratched the surface on a couple of these topics that we could do, hours long episodes on some of this stuff, especially like what Corey said, the music scene. But you guys have anything you want to close with?
I just thank you for taking the time to come on, man. And it's excellent. I feel like we could sit here and just talk all night, but
No, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'm slightly less appreciative, but still appreciative nonetheless.
Yeah. Great.
And I want to go on record, and Tyler, I might need your help with this, but I've been trying to convince Corey to get back into music on some form or fashion, whether it's not saying he has to start a band, but I think, and when you talked about having like the third Saturday of every month, the kids coming and have instructors, like, Corey, you'd be perfect at that kind of stuff, man. Like getting out there and utilizing your talent and like teaching kids. You know what I mean? As long as you don't yell and scream at the kids, like
Corey, music is in your heart. It's been there all along. You just have to start seeking it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm at an all-time high depression on that subject.
Perfect.
So, we'll see. Let's keep it going this year, 2025.
There we go.
I will tell you. Sorry. Every time that I've convinced myself that I'm done with the music because of one reason or another, it has been followed up with a sense of unfulfillment that is like, doesn't matter, sober, not sober, whatever. It's like, no, this has to be part of your life. It keeps you centered. So
good stuff. Yeah. Tyler, I can't thank you enough, bro. This was really, really a treat. And just, I love you, man. You're a brother to me. And I probably talk to you more on the phone than I do literally anyone else in the world. So just an absolute treat, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that stuff, bro.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Good stuff. Well, shout out to our listeners. Please like, follow, and share on all socials at Trudge Report Pod. Email us trudgereportpod@yahoo.com. If you want to yell at Corey, that's a perfect platform to do so. Send in your mailbag requests for topics, questions, and comments to any of these handles. Remember, we are all here if anyone wants to talk about recovery and our experiences, or if you're struggling with some form of addiction. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Trudge Report Pod, for some additional content. Greg and Corey put a wrestling thing up a couple weeks ago. We had some NBA playoff prequel stuff. We'll have some more coming. Please don't forget to check that out. And we are going to have some info to Tyler's band and business in the description, the episode description coming out this week. So wherever you are listening to this or watching this, check out the description for some links and access to some of his stuff. Thank you, as always, to our wonderful producer, Miss Janine Stella, and Stella Mix Podcast Management. Good night. God bless. And may you trudge the road of happy destiny. We will see you next week.